At Sheartak, we're proud to be part of so many workshops around the world, helping woodworkers get the most out of their machines. Today, we're sharing a special story from Nova Scotia, where one of our spiral cutterheads found a new home in a General 30 225 15-inch planer. This is a story of a dedicated and passionate woodworker from a rural area in Nova Scotia that has access to a few hundred acres of forested land that allows him to harvest his own lumber. It's a great way for him to keep costs low, but it also means he works with some extremely rough stock, meaning his planer is constantly put to the test, handling heavy workloads. You can imagine that his blades will frequently be nicked or chipped, making them dull quite often. And since he doesn't live in the urban area, blade sharpening meant a 4-hour round trip every time. It was inconvenient, costly, and cut into valuable working time. That's exactly why he decided to upgrade to one of our high-performance and efficient Sheartak Spiral Cutterheads. With indexable carbide inserts, there's no need for sharpening. When an edge dulls, a simple turn gets him right back to work with no downtime, and most importantly, no more long trips. He was kind enough to record his entire installation process, and we're excited to walk you through the upgrade step by step. The General 30 225 planer is one of those 15-inch planer where the motor is mounted on top instead of in the base of the machine. Therefore, we need to remove the motor before we can remove the top cover and dust hood. So by unscrewing the 4 bolts, we can remove the belt cover. Then we can loosen the bolts securing the motor mount bracket to the guard belt bracket. This loosens the tension on the pulley belts, which allows us to slide off all 3 belts with ease. And unscrewing the bolts the rest of the way allows us to remove the motor and set it aside. It's important to place some pieces of wood under the motor before unscrewing it loose to protect the top cover of the machine. Now, remove the screw securing the top cover and dust port. Then, lift off the top cover to expose the cutterhead. Taking off the chip deflector plate gives you an even clearer view of the cutterhead. Now you can remove the blades from the old cutterhead. Then proceed to wedge a wood block between the cutterhead and the headstock to prevent the cutterhead from rotating. This allows you to unscrew the hex nut securing the cutterhead pulley. When the hex nut is removed, then remove the pulley and the shaft key. Next, remove the long hex bolt and the shorter one securing the belt guard bracket, then take off the bracket itself. This can actually be done before removing the cutterhead pulley, but the order does not matter. Then on the gearbox side, remove the single cap screw off the sprocket cover and then one of the rear guards. Then you can remove the sprocket cover. If you've been using your machine for a while, the sprockets will be covered in a lot of sawdust. Feel free to quickly brush or blow off the dust before proceeding. Then unhook the spring from the hanger and move the idler spring away. Then remove the 3 hex bolts and 3 washers securing the sprockets. Remove the 3 sprockets along with their chains. Make sure to not lose the shaft keys for each. Make sure you have some wood blocks under the cutterhead to catch it when you unseat the gearbox. Remove the 4 cap screws holding the gearbox. And tap on the shaft of the cutterhead from the pulley side with a rubber mallet to unseat it. Or if you have a steel hammer, use a piece of wood to cushion the impact. Then, while the gearbox is hanging, drain the gearbox oil. Here, the woodworker drained the gearbox oil by loosening the gearbox cover. However, there's a drain plug on the gearbox that you can remove to drain the oil easily. We see the woodworker is trying to remove it at first, but this particular model makes it difficult to access it while it's installed, so he needed to unseat the gearbox first. When the gearbox is thoroughly drained, set the cutterhead on a working table. With all 5 cap screws securing the gearbox cover removed, gently pry it open. Here the woodworker was lucky and all gears and bearings came out all together. This might not be the case for you. It's fine as long as you can remove the helical gear from the cutterhead. This will just make reinstallation of the gearbox a little bit more difficult. And if ever there's a gear blocking you from removing the helical gear, remove it by carefully pulling it out. With the helical gear removed, you can proceed to separate the gearbox from the old cutterhead. This can be done by having a person or a vice holding the cutterhead in place, while you unseat the gearbox with some gentle taps from your rubber hammer. When the gearbox is unseated, you will need to remove the screw and washer holding the old bearing in the gearbox in place, and remove the oil seal. Then punch out the old bearing with a dowel from the outside. With the new bearing provided by the Sheartak Cutterhead, seated in the gearbox, again with a dowel, ensuring that the impact is applied solely in the outer race of the bearing. Tapping anywhere else can damage the bearing. Now reinstall the screw and washer that held the bearing in place. Now, it is really important to reinstall the oil seal before fitting the new cutter head in the gearbox to avoid any oil leaks. We provide a new oil seal with the cutter head. Then, with the cutter head seated properly in the gearbox, reinstall the helical gear. Then, reassemble the gearbox. If the gasket is damaged, replace it with a new one to avoid any oil leaks. In this case, the woodworker used MotoSeal as he had a broken gasket but did not have a new one. Make sure all 5 cap screws are securely tightened. Make sure that the drain plug is installed before filling the gearbox with either the old oil or new 80W90 sprocket oil. Then reinstall the new cutter head in the machine. Ensure the bearing on the pulley side shaft is aligned with its housing. Using firm taps with a rubber hammer on the gearbox, seat the bearing properly until the machine screw holes align with the screw holes of the gearbox. While lifting the gearbox in place, screw the 4 top cap screws to secure it. Now reinstall the sprockets and the chains with their shaft keys. Secure them by reinstalling the 3 washers and 3 bolts. Rehook the idler spring. Here, the other rear guard was preventing the sprocket cover to be installed, so he loosened it by removing one of the bolts. Then he was able to install the sprocket cover and secure it with its cap screw. Remember to secure the rear guards if ever you loosen them. Then, on the pulley side, reinstall the guard belt bracket and the pulley. Reinstall the chip deflector plate and reinstall the top cover. Reinstall the motor and secure it properly to the guard belt bracket. Reseat all 3 pulley belts. Properly secure the bracket to the machine and reinstall the belt cover. With these final steps, the upgrade is done. Now it's time to put it to the test. With his old straight knife cutter head, you can see pretty terrible tear out. But now, with the Sheartak Spiral Cutterhead installed, the difference is clear. As he runs the board through, you can see the smooth finish and the clean surface, and little to no tear out. That's the power of shear cutting. Staggered carbide inserts that shear the wood cleanly, reduce noise, and leave a polished result. But most importantly, no more long trips to sharpen blades. Just a simple turn of the insert and the planer can get back to work. Efficient and no cost at all. Want to upgrade your planer? Check out Sheartak Spiral Cutterheads today on our website. And for any questions, contact us at sales@sheartak.com.